Hi, and welcome back to our discussion. So for today, we will have our lesson 2 for module 3. This is task designing. So early this day, we have actually discussed the product-oriented competencies. So what are the competencies that we can actually get when we do assessment or authentic assessment. So this time, let's discuss task designing. So what is actually task designing? Task designing is the design of the task. In this context, depends on what the teacher desires to observe as outputs of the students. So task designing is like the steps on how we will be able to provide or create a task that we want to measure, or an assessment that we want to measure the student's capability. So in this one, we will need to use these 3 things. First is complexity, next is appeal, and then the third is creativity. So complexity, it is within the range of ability of the student. So it is important that when you create a task, the task should be complex. It should be within the range of the ability of the students. Di naman pwede na yung task na ginawa mo is, your students are actually like grade 1, pero yung task na ginawa mo is for grade 3. So, di ba, it's not appropriate. So, it should be within their range of ability. Next is appeal. It is important that the appeal is interesting enough so that students, the task is interesting enough so that students are encouraged to pursue the task to completion. So, there are students na ang hirap talaga na kunin yung attention nila, especially in doing a task, especially in lower years like kinder, grade 1, grade 2, and grade 3. You need to actually provide a very appealing task na they will actually enjoy and they will be interested in that particular task. Okay, if your task is really boring, so dili na sila or hindi talaga sila mag-perform. Next is creativity. Lead the students into exploring the various possible ways of representing the final outcome. So it is also important that your task is being creative. So it is important that they are able to provide their creativity also. Like for example, we will ask them to create something and then discuss that particular item or output that they have made. So that is already a creative task. Why? Because they're able to provide a better outcome for that. I remember when I was in elementary and high school, when teachers actually provide a topic that we need to report, instead of like reporting it like the regular reporting, what we did is we sometimes do an interview, like for example yung mga talk show. Dati yung pinakasikat pa dati na talk show is yung si Chris at si Boy Abunda. So talagang gagayahin namin sila, and then but what we are actually doing in the interview is the topic that we have or that our teacher provided us. So that is already an example of a creative this task design. So you tend to let the students explore on what are actually the best way for them to be able to provide their topic or their art. Okay. So suggestions for designing performance tasks. According to Lean 1995, suggested ways to improve the development of tasks. So Lean actually provides suggestions on how to create or to improve your task design. So goal-based project is produced in order to attain a learning objective. So it is important na kapag gumagawa tayo ng task design, we are actually doing a goal-based project because we want to attain the learning objectives or competencies that we want the students to have after the topic. So like, for example, the number one steps here is focus on learning outcomes that require complex cognitive skills and student performance. So in this one, you should actually like create a task that will measure the competencies that you want to get from the student. So hindi naman pwede na yung task na gagawin mo is napakalayo dun sa competencies na gusto mo makuha sa students. Kasi like, ano connect, di ba? Yung ganun. So it's important that you actually find a task that is associated or that will reflect your competencies and objectives. Next is select or develop tasks that present both the content and the skills that are central to important learning outcomes. So you also need to select and develop a task na yung content and skills na gusto mo makuha is nandun. So it's actually like the same sa sinabi ko kanina. Next is minimize the dependence of task performance on skills that are irrelevant to the intended purpose of the assessment task. So dito, it is important na yung ginagawa mong task or the task that you're actually preparing, dapat hindi mo na isali yung mga, or at least minimize the performance skills na hindi naman talaga siya kasali dun sa competencies or sa objective mo. So parang hindi mo naman kasi siya isinali sa measurement, diba? So parang wala talaga siyang kwenta. So instead of them focusing on that particular thing na hindi naman talaga sila mabibigyan ng grades, so make sure na you will provide a task that is associated mainly to your learning outcomes. Next is provide the necessary scaffolding for students to be able to understand the task and what is expected. So scaffolding, it is actually like a term where in the beginning, tutulungan mo pa yung students. Like you will give them the steps on how to do it, show them the steps, but in the end, you will actually let them do it without your help. So yun yung scaffolding. So it is important na you will provide also the scaffolding needed for the students. Di pwede na bibigyan mo lang sila ng task and then you will not actually even providing them the steps on how to do it. Our students are not like robots or computers na kapag binigyan yun ng task, gagawin lang nila yan ng hindi magtatanong kung ano ang anong gagawin nila. Yes, there's actually a possibility that they can search it on YouTube or other online platforms, but it is important for you as a teacher to provide those assistance. And then once they're able to do it, then let go. That's how you will provide a task also. Next is construct task directions so that the student's task is clearly indicated. This is also one of the most important things. Sometimes we provide tasks without telling the students on what is actually the things that they need to do. So it is important that we have clear and concise direction na mas madali nilang maiintindihan to make sure na walang misunderstanding and other things na hindi naman talaga importante. So it's important that we provide the correct direction on that particular or specific task. All right, so that's the end of this particular lesson. So again, this will be just a short lesson. So the lesson 2, the task design. See you on the third lesson.